Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today is a video that I didn't really plan, but Rise of Kingdoms released the exact stats of Ragnar Prime. And as you know, I am probably the most well-known infantry free-to-play player out there, so of course I'm gonna give my opinion, and I'll give you some information as well, pairings and that sort of stuff. Let's take a look at the skills. Raven's Call, rage cost 1000, and you get AoE damage to 3 targets. It is damage factor 2000, which is similar to Scipio Africanus, but you also get the target will also take 300 additional damage for the next 2 seconds. That is nice. Gets me thinking maybe the 35 rage from what inscription was it? I forgot it, but there was an inscription with 35 rage. So I wonder if you get 35 rage from the active skill and 35 from the second additional damage. That is interesting. Yeah, the inscription is called Crazed. It's a blue one. So that is really interesting. So that will give you like a mini rage engine if you have that. And with Scipio Primary, maybe you have like 3 times that rage in one cycle, which is nice. But let's wait with the pairings. 2000, not a too big factor, but with the expertise it gets a little bit bigger. This commander's infantry units gain 40% defense, 10% march speed. If this commander troops contains only infantry unit, it takes 10% less normal damage. Nice buff, you got some stats there. 40% defense, I think health was more needed, but defense, I guess it's fine. Who needs more defense? I don't know. It is pretty tanky. This is more tanky commander based on what we see now on this skill. So let's take a look at the next skill as well. Sea King. If this commander is in a field troop, whenever it launches or is hit with a basic attack, it has a 30% chance to drain the enemy's attack by 20% and march speed by 30% for 2 seconds. And this is really interesting. So draining, in fact, is you reduce the enemy's attack by 20% and march speed by 30%, but you also gain 20% march speed and 30%, 30% march speed and 20% attack for 2 seconds. And it says that it doesn't really have a cooldown, which is really nice. No cooldown here. Maybe there's an internal cooldown, but this is pretty nuts because it will also not only works when you launch a basic attack, it also triggers when the enemy launches a basic attack on you. So if you get swarmed by, let's say, 3 people, you constantly trigger this. And I am very curious, does it stack? If it stacks, you gain like 90% march speed, which is completely crazy. I don't think it stacks, but that would be pretty nuts. And does it work on all your enemies or only your current target? I'm really curious. Does it work on all the enemies that are countering you? If so, I mean, you can get away easily from a swarm. I mean, you get that march speed and you reduce all their march speed. So if you get swarmed, it's pretty easy. And I think like for a thing like Osiris League, if you currently have the Ark and you get swarmed, you reduce all the enemies march speed by 30% here pretty often, and you gain that 30% for yourself. And I don't know if it stacks, but if it does, it will be insane. I don't think it does, but I mean, that is a pretty decent skill, and I think that's gonna be the most underrated skill of all here. But that is very interesting. So basically 20% attack, 30% march speed, and you reduce 20% attack and 30% march speed pretty often. Even if in a 1v1, you have every turn, you have 2 times 30% chance to trigger. So in one turn, you have to calculate like this, 0.7 times 0.7 would be the chance that you trigger it. I don't know what it exactly is. I think like, whoa, I know it. It's 0.49, I think. So it's almost 50-50 per turn that you trigger it. And it works for 2 turns. So you might be triggering this non-stop, actually, if you play a 1v1. That's not bad. I know it's march speed, and attack. Not the best stats, but I think it's decent. In Odin's Hall, if this commander troop is in a field troop, their troop takes 25% less skill damage, and every time their troop rage reaches 70%, it gains a 15% bonus to skill damage dealt for 4 seconds. So that's basically 50% extra skill damage, unless you get silenced, but most of the time 15% extra skill damage, which also influences the direct damage from the active skill of this guy. So that is interesting. And their troop takes 25% less skill damage. That's pretty tanky. Who really needs that? Well, either Guan or Scipio. So we will go look into the pairings soon. We only have to look at the expertise first, and then we can look at possible pairings. Let's see the expertise. It is an improvement of the active. Deals direct damage up to 3 enemy troops in a van, damage factor 2200, so a 200 increase. And all troop hit by this skill take additional damage for every second for the next 2 seconds. Damage factor through 300, and that is not reduced. That is interesting, because first it was only the current target. So basically, what you're doing here, you have double AoE. You have 3 targets, 2200, and then for the next 2 seconds, 3 targets, 2 times 300. So 600 to each target is 1800 in total. So that's basically maybe 1 extra troop. I think that's decent, and you can also apply some debuffs or buffs from some of the inscriptions that trigger when you use an active skill, I think. Not exactly sure if that works, like Craze that I talked about in the beginning. So that's gonna be okay. It's not the best expertise. I'd like to see a debuff here or something. It's cool that you have AoE additional damage after your skill. I think that is pretty cool and will be decent. I don't think this is gonna be the best commander for infantry, but I think it will decently save Scipio or Guan. But let's talk about that right now. I mean, the first commander is obvious. Scipio Africanus. You deal 3 AoE as well, 2000 damage factor, the same, unless expertise, of course, and a 30% health debuff, which is gonna help. So this is very, very nice. And remember, in the support tree, there is also like 9% skill damage reduction, I think. Makes it even more tanky. This commander's infantry units gain 40% attack, 50% march speed, and 10% extra outside alliance territory, which is happening quite often. So you gain a decent amount of march speed on this march, so basically 25 base plus 10 out territory, and the weird march speed debuff thing. Then we have 20% health and 10% chance to deal additional damage to the target every 3 seconds, 500 factor for 3 seconds, which is decent. You have some health. And here you have damage reduction 30%, but that is a 50% chance to trigger when taking skill damage. And you gain a damage absorbing shield then as well to 3 nearby friendly troops as well, 500. Same as the direct damage factor. Well, why is this a good pairing? There is no defense in the kit of Scipio, so that will compensate, and you will get a ton of attack extra, and another attack debuff or a health debuff. You have an attack debuff, so it's gonna debuff quite a lot of stats actually. This commander troop deals also 10% more skill damage, and their troops gain 30% rage faster if the current target is silenced, which doesn't really happen a lot, but hey. Scipio and Ragnar are gonna have a lot of stats. They're gonna be tanky, they're gonna deal AoE damage, and they're gonna be pretty quick. Even if they get attacked, they will get even quicker. And they have like the insane debuffs that I told you. So this is like a very, very good combi, and I think this will be the best combi for infantry skill damage. And we also have Guan. You have 2000 damage factor AoE as well to 3 targets, which is the same. And you get a silence debuff. So hey, notice there is 3 infantry commanders now with 2000 damage factor to 3 targets. Nice. unless expertise, of course. You gain 30% attack, 15% march speed, and some slightly wounded recovered units, which is not interesting at all. And you have a 50% chance to deal even more damage. I think that is pretty decent. And the expertise gives you 15% more skill damage if you receive a shield, but there is no shield in this March. So basically you never get use out of this expertise. And here we have 5% attack and 10% defense as well. I think this combination is not as good as the Scipio combination. I think honestly Guan will die with this commander. I think Scipio with Ragnar is going to be what everyone will use, and meaning Guan will left behind. And it's the end of Guan. I think that is going to happen. Yeah, I think that's going to happen. Let's get to the next commander, which is a surprise commander. And it's going to be Pyrrhus, and that seems weird. It only has a 1400 damage factor, and you deal 20% more normal damage for the next 3 seconds, which is, I think, not the best active skill in the game, not at all, but it is at least, well, you get some normal damage there. You deal some extra normal damage outside of Alliance territory, 20%, which is pretty nice. And this commander troops gain 10% health and 50% march speed, which is never bad for infantry. Of course, you need to have this commander maxed. I mean, who has a gold key commander maxed? I don't know. If this commander troops on the map, you gain 20% attack, and once you launch a basic attack, you get 10% chance to gain damage absorbing shield. Factor 500 for 3 seconds. Yeah, not too good, but you at least gain some nice attack. There is also 20% less skill damage taken, and that is really interesting because this new commander has 25% less skill damage as well, makes a total of 45% skill damage reduction. It also gives you a 10% skill damage bonus, which is nice for the AoE. Don't forget that the new commander has the defensive tree, which gives you another 9% skill damage reduction, makes a total of 54% skill damage reduction. That is quite a lot. And of course the expertise also gives you a 10% chance to reduce the target's attack for 3 seconds, which is the same as on the 3rd skill of Ragnar. You also can reduce the target's attack, so does that stack as well? Well, let's make the conclusion. I think that Ragnar is gonna be meta for Scipio. Pyrrhus is not gonna be feasible for most because they don't have it maxed anyways, and I don't know if it's that good. Yeah, it will be very tanky, but does it deal a lot of damage? I don't know. We need to see some testing for that, but I don't think it's feasible for most players since it's gold key. But this commander is gonna be very, very good with Scipio. You're gonna deal a nice AoE damage, and it is pretty tanky, so it will definitely help you survive in a murder ball a bit longer, and maybe even like Osiris League meta. I don't know. I mean, if you carry the arc, it's gonna give you 60% march speed difference between you and your swarmers, which is gonna be nice. So this new commander is pretty interesting to me, and I will max it. I am the infantry free-to-play main, and I will max the commander once it comes out and do some testing with you. So it seems like Scipio it is, and that is very interesting, and I look forward for testing. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. Pyrrhus also gives you 30% defense and 10% extra skill damage from the relic. So that makes it even better. Even though I don't think it is gonna be meta, but it is something that I'd like to see to have it tested, right? So that was it for today. Leave your opinion down in the comments down below, and well, join Discord because we're gonna have bets in the next video, which will probably be tomorrow once I have some free time. And I'll see you then. Yeah, make sure to join Discord. It's gonna be fun. We can have a discussion in Discord, and I'll answer your questions. Well, leave a like and sub. See you later. Bye.